exciting morning and upcoming afternoon here today. Got a little bit of a free pass to take a 24-hour adventure. My wife has got a couple of bike packing adventures in the near future, so she let me get away by myself for a quick little outing here, get my long run in a little bit further out of town. Not so far though, just a couple hours drive here, but definitely steeper and more rugged. I'm going to be talking about the Norda Black Diamond Alpine collection here throughout the course of this long effort, long day out. I've loaded up their new distance 15-liter pack here. Black Diamond does have a distance 15-liter pack, but the collaborative elements here with Norda make this something new and interesting. I got in the early evening yesterday, pulled over, camped for the night. Did have time for a bit of a sunset exploration run. I've been on this trail before, but it's been a little bit. The main thing here is getting some vertical in, and I think first mile of this route here has about 870 feet of gain, so pretty solid. I did want to check in yesterday's run if there was any sources of water along the way, and there's really not, so I may end up doing a couple loops back and forth, but we'll see how it goes. With that amount of vertical per mile in this initial part, I also want to practice and get some training in with the old poles here. I shouldn't say the old poles because I have these brand new distance Carbon Z FKT Poles from Black Diamond. Super cool, super interesting. We're going to talk about that as I get going here. Did a little bit of hiking without the poles, but I'll transition a little bit back and forth throughout this run. But real innovation with what they're calling the FKT strap here from Black Diamond. See that little thingy there? That is a magnet. When not in use, it handily kind of seats back there. There's a little magnet inside the part between two fingers there. That is your new connection point to the handle of the pole, and it is amazing, game-changing. I've said that in the past about different types of shoes and gear, but this truly is, I think they're going to be moving into lucky territory as far as ease of use with clipping in and out of those poles. But more on that later. Again, I'm just hiking here for this first lap here. There's plenty of vert to come. I want to ease my way into a long day here. Last night I actually took these 000s. This is a new model from Norda, co-branded with Black Diamond. The intention of this weekend, this long run, in fact, have another pair of shoes that I was thinking more of my 100-mile race day option. But I also wanted to test a few of the pieces from this Norda Black Diamond collection, including the shoes on that first shorter run. And going up and down here, I just felt more comfortable than I thought I would. So I figured, hey, I've got this whole Alpine collection out here with me. I might as well run in the shoes. I wasn't expecting them to feel that comfortable going this steep up and down, but I was surprised. So here I am for a much longer outing here today in them. Now, I mentioned the term Alpine collection a couple times already here, and I think that is a very important distinction here. It seems like they're intentionally trying to be mountain sport agnostic. They're not leaning into, say, trail running verbiage, or even calling this pack here. It is called, quote unquote, a pack and not a vest. And that's definitely an intentional distinction. There's a clear eye on being able to carry more gear in definitely a more durable package. We'll talk about the outer material later, but it's not going to be your lightweight style trail racing type of pack here. Even the 000 shoes, did I add an extra zero there? How many did I say? I think I said 3. It is the 000. I'm gonna dissect where this new model lands in Norda's wider model lineup, but you could probably already tell just by getting a quick glance at them, kind of a mashup between the 001, 001A, and the 002. But following along that path of Alpine collaboration here, the weight of this shoe clocks in at 11.4 ounces, 322 grams, which is quite a bit heavier than any of those other models that I've tested before. I do measure some differences in stack height though. I've got those 002, of course, closer to the ground at 28.24. That is my measurement based on spec drop and measured heel height. My measured heel for the 001A is 31. So with a 5 mil drop, that puts it at 31.26. The 000 here, the midsole looks visually closer to the 001 models. So I'd expect similar stack height, but have a little bit higher here. I measured 34 at the heel, putting it at 34.29. That's, if you're going by spec drop, 3 millimeters higher, both under the heel and under the forefoot compared to my 001As. I find that quite interesting because they actually look very similar, almost identical in fact, to those 001A insoles. But again, I feel like perhaps a little bit more, perhaps one of the reasons I was running this route out here yesterday, I did feel surprisingly cushioned, surprisingly protected underfoot, leading me to take them out again here today. Similarities continue with the biocircular Dyneema upper here, also Dyneema laces, and similar Vibram Mega Grip light base outsole design here with 5 mil lugs, similar to those other Norda models, and now even the 055. There is an all new midsole foam underfoot here. This is from Vibram again. They're calling this Vibram Stream. I tried to get some composition details, tried to prod them a little bit. I couldn't get the exact foam formulation, so I am thinking it is some type of EVA formulation, possibly supercritical. It does feel, I think, softer, certainly than the 001, and I think even a little bit softer than the 001A, but again, I'm measuring 3 mil more in stack height, so could also be that. You've got a similar structured feeling ride underfoot here. Again, you've got that healthy full coverage outsole, not feeling crazy bouncy, certainly not as energetic as the 005 or even the 055 for that matter, but comfortable on the run, no plate of course, flexes easily, and again, I think there's a little more stack here, feeling more protective, feeling more comfortable, noticing more ground feel in a good way, in a perhaps protected way here, and I think it's also a factor that I sized up to a 10.5 here based on previous experience with those other 001s and the 002. With this sizing here, it's feeling like I have definitely more comfort in the toe box, even a little bit of room for not quite toe splay, but say forefoot expansion and say ground absorption. I felt a little cramped in the past in my 001 shoes, more so in the front of the toe box. Just barely enough room there. Even my 005 in US 10, so perhaps I'm gonna go to a new Norda sizing here across the board. Coming back to this Distance 15-liter pack here, it's not, again, a trail running specific vest here. It's not called a vest, it's called a pack. Have to make that distinction when you're evaluating it. But it does have these soft flask bottle pockets up front, and they're quite nice. They're the longer variety. Doesn't come with bottles, which I think is a good thing. Got too many bottles. You probably do too. Probably have your favorites. I don't think there's any reason to give new bottles every time you buy a pack. But I do have a range of, say, shorter squatter bottles. This one, these pockets, they're longer, so you want to use those longer, skinnier bottles with these. I have one from Nathan here, both 16 ounces here. This one has the smaller top, kind of flatter lip for comfort. And I've got this one here. This is a Hoka one, standard 42 mil top here. But what I want to say is they're both equally stable, and just the pack in general, holding these, the orientation, the location of where the bottles are. I'm not always a huge front bottle guy due to bounce. Some packs are better than others. This one seems to be really good. Kind of not feeling any bounce at all here when I'm running with these. And should drank a little more at this point. They're probably more fully loaded than they should be. One point I noticed last night when through my exploratory run, came through this section here, lots of low brush and branches and stuff. I could feel it like scratching up against the back of his vest. Could definitely see how the durability of that material will be a factor. Different kinds of more alpine terrain. Certainly if you're taking the pack on and off, throwing it down, or just putting it on all kinds of scratchy and sharp rocks and stuff. And again, I just noticed that coming through, I think there's a few sections further up ahead, very tight section of trees. A lot of times you do have to do a lot of bushwhacking if you're going off trail, so the durability of that material back there could be a big advantage in those situations. Let's see, 43 minutes here, 2.47 miles, and just crossing 2,100 feet of gain here. That was the main part of the climb that I wanted to do some loopbacks on today, which I will, but a little bit of a stretch of runnable stuff up along the ridge here. Good to kind of loosen up the legs after a long climb, see how easily you could get back into that running turnover. Good practice. 5 mil drop. Does feel nice and smooth even when you're running. Again, coming back to the design and intention of the collection, I think it's kind of a hybrid approach slash trail running shoe here. I'm a trail runner specifically, don't do any of that type of mountaineering, but I know that there are scenarios where, you know, those athletes, not your, perhaps you, but those types of athletes are perhaps doing a little bit of fast packing, a little bit of light running just to get to their objectives a little quicker. And I think this would be a model that would work well for that. I think the North Face has similar types of approach slash running hybrid shoes. I think of Alex Honnold. He's not a Black Diamond athlete. He's with the North Face, obviously, but everybody knows him, and everybody knows, or at least in the trail running world, you know, he does a little bit of trail running just for exercise and to make some of those fast type of link ups that he does. So I think that is the intention of the shoe. Link up your kind of mountain climbing objectives in a package that is runnable, and when you're crossing over scree, sharp rocks, rugged stuff, gonna keep your feet protected for when you need them, actually climbing up on those walls and stuff like that. Again, not for me. I'm not afraid of heights, but just not my thing. Quick look at fit and sizing here. I think I'm officially making the switch now. I'm gonna go US 10.5, this sizing. Going forward in Norda, I've been getting 10s, although I've had to go 10.5 with the 005 due to just shortness in their sizing. What I think, I guess as far as US sizing, that is, because typically my US 10s do match up with the EU 44 here. In Norda, they've got these EU 44s at a US 10.5, so perhaps I should just think about Norda shoes in EU sizing here. With the 10.5, I've got a little short of a full thumbs width, which is what I want. I'm out here for 3 or 4 hours today, and usually in Norda shoes, I'm out there for a lot of my long runs, and if I do intend to race in them, I want to have that amount of foot space, which in a 10, which would be my typical ultra sizing, I normally have in other brands. I just don't have that with Nordas. I think they just run a little short, again, relative to US sizing, but they are a wide fit, high volume fit, similar fit lock system here. You see, at least for my foot volume, a little bit of extra upper material around here, but those straps are on the inside similar to their other models, so my foot is held more securely than you might think based on the look of the upper material. So I'm having a really nice fit in these 10.5s here, and I have more room on ground contact there for my foot to absorb the ground. I think when I have those 10s in the 001 and 001A, I'm just a little bit squeezed in the front of the toe box, and I don't feel like, you know, I'm a little like squeezed from the sides as well, so I don't quite feel like I get that good feel of the ground with those. So yeah, again, I think going forward in Norda, I'm gonna stick with 10.5. So I'm trying to get a hold of one of those 055 kind of, not Gore-Tex, but the wintry models with the G Plus coating there. I've requested that one in a 10.5, so I'll be able to compare the sizing against my 055s in a 10. So again, I'm gonna do a comparison at the end. I brought along my 001s and my 002s, but it's kind of a mashup here. You've got the 001 midsole style here. Again, I have them measured a little bit higher. 002 is notably thinner, but the kind of design of this looks more 001-ish, but I think the material is 002-ish, and obviously the heel, you've got that 002 heel, which is definitely more approachable, no pun intended, but certainly more comfortable, more like a standard heel than what they've got going on in the 001 and 001A. So kind of a mashup between the one underfoot and the elements of the two up top, with maybe some look of the 001 mixed in. One thing I will note is the 002 heel, I feel like they overdid it. It was like a little blocky, kind of, it just felt like too square around here. The material's a little different on the interior here. In the close-up, I'll take a look at all these shoes. That might end up being a separate video, but I always felt like it was kind of pressing on my Achilles too much in the 002. It felt like they went from the 001 to the 002 and kind of like overdid it with the cushioning around the heel. It looks the same here, but for whatever reason, and it could be the material, it could be me having better sizing for my foot here, I'm not feeling anything at all. I mean, I'm feeling comfort around this area, whereas I felt it was like a little bit much around my heel. And actually I did have the 002 in a 10.5, so I had that heel shape, heel design in the same size as I have this shoe right here, and it always kind of like, it felt like too much, and even borderline irritation on the back of my Achilles and heel there in that model. And I'm not feeling that at all in this one. This one, for some reason, feels a lot more comfortable. For me, this is the most comfortable heel padded Achilles area of all the Norda shoes. So I'm gonna head on back along this runnable flat here, back down to the start, and then maybe do 2 laps just on that steep section. Should get me where I want to be. Maybe refuel back at the base there. I haven't busted out the poles for this loop just yet, but did test them out yesterday, and I'll do that over the next couple laps. Let's talk about them here though. This FKT system they've got here, that little magnet tab there, it's just simply amazing. I mean, we're talking about true innovation here. There hasn't really been, at least as far as I know, a pole system like a strap pole design to match Lecky's shark grip system, the little loop that hooks on there. That has been, I would say, the dominant design in the marketplace for a very long time, and I think I was kind of just like resigned, like that was gonna be it. I have a pair of those ultralight poles. They are awesome, but these work similarly and possibly even more effectively. I have to maybe do a deep dive comparison down the road, but this is certainly within range. What you've got are these little magnet tabs on each wrist strap here. They kind of flop along here, and then you just hook them right into a slot on the upper handle of the poles, and they just lock in. And then you can press down with your thumb and it releases super easy, just like nothing. There's also like a secondary magnet higher up on the wrist strap that when you're not using the poles, kind of seats that magnet and keeps it from, I'm running here, keeps it from flopping around on the run. You could kind of just reach it with one of your fingers when you want to add the poles on, or even you just angle your hand like this on top of the pole and then it'll lock in. If it's loose, it just easily finds the magnet on the top. But if it's kind of stuck as it just did automatically, which is just kind of nice, that's how magnets work. You just kind of angle your hand onto the top of the pole, slide back, and you're in. No wrist straps, no, I hate to say it, with those Lecky straps, sometimes those loops get really gunked up and they can get really tight to get on and off. You could loop them up for sure with some Vaseline. That definitely helps, but if it happens kind of in the middle of the race, that's kind of a pain, and it has happened. So this is, you don't have any of that. Really nice. I tried to film some clips yesterday for demonstration, strapping in, not strapping in, clipping in. I don't know what you want to call it, latching in. I don't know what the official term is, if there is one. And say disconnecting, and how easy it was. Just complete one-handed operation. Drop the pole in my first demonstration. That had nothing to do with the design here, just had trouble catching that one on the run. A little more focused on a couple more attempts trying to get the shot. But you could see how you can just clip in and out with one hand, and also not even looking. I had them extended out from my body there, so really interesting and innovative design here from Black Diamond and Norda. Talked about this being sort of an approach hybrid shoe on the way up. On the way down here, certainly a runnable Norda style shoe here. Again, a little bit heavier, a little bit more stack I measured. Probably leaning into durability with that Dyneema upper design. I believe the 002 style upper, which this one seems to match, is a little bit more durable of a material. Doesn't have an interior liner like the knit Dyneema outer layer of the 001 models. That one has more of a knit outer and a full lined interior in the toe box. This one, gussets on the side, interior is a little thicker, no liner in the toe box. It's not crazy Alpine over here. Like, I'm not gonna get a ton of rock abrasions on the side of this upper on my route here today, but it is rocky underfoot though. So the protection underfoot is definitely an aspect, again, that I was surprised by yesterday. The other shoe that I brought with me for this little 24-hour getaway is the Hoka Tecton X4. That is a shoe that I have my eye on for a mountain 100-miler, potentially in the fall. So I wanted to get some of these style of miles, this style of terrain underfoot in that shoe, but this one just felt so good, and Again, I was looking at the rest of this collection here, the pack, the poles, and the duffel, of course, packing for this quick little trip. So sticking with the 000 here, and let's see, 2400 so far of gain. Feeling pretty good so far, and I had this amount of gain just last night. A couple more laps here, I should hit probably 6,000 to 7,000 feet of gain over the course of between 3 and 4 hours. Don't know what the distance will work out to, but it should be pretty solid, and I'm feeling very confident in these 000s right now. Notable feature of this Distance 15 pack here is the lack of bottle loops up top here. Again, this is not a trail running specific pack here, so you don't have those loops here, which I think are kind of de facto standard in traditional running vests. There is something interesting though. There's this little kind of padded bungee section just below the upper lip of these here, and this one kind of slid down a little because this is actually the thinner bottle here. We've got the standard 42 here, and this little bungee section here seems to be holding up the top of the bottle in such a way that the nozzle is maintaining its height, sticking just out the top of the pocket here where I can get to it. And the bottle itself is not sliding down. So this is something I have not seen before, and it does look pretty interesting and does seem to be effective. Again, I'm just testing this now. It's not going to be as effective with these thinner types of ones because the elastic is not tight enough to maybe hold this, although maybe depends on how much is in this bottle. But certainly it seems like for these standard 42s here, it's holding up the top of the bottle, even though I've drank this one down actually a little bit more. This one's kind of flat. That is pretty cool. So if you sometimes wonder if I know what I'm talking about, being that a lot of times I film closer to home, obviously, I do have a sense about rugged, kind of rocky mountain terrain. And again, a couple hours from home here. This is not too far out of my wheelhouse or range. In case you skimmed through the beginning of this video, I think I did mention that just about 2 hours, a little more than 2 hours away from home here, and you can probably tell the difference in what I'm running in compared to smoother trails that you may see in some of my videos. Kind of at the bottom here, at least for the steeper part, flattens out a little from where I started. I'm gonna do one lap here, gonna bust the poles out, but before I do, this material here is called a Challenge Sailcloth Ultra Weave 100D PFAS free. I think that's Dernier. I don't know. I'm not too up on my, I believe that's a rating of either strength or abrasion property there. This is 100D. The Mission 30-liter duffel that I have is 400D, and that one seems to be a bit thicker, and it seems to have like a little bit of a waterproofy coating on the interior of the pack, I guess, to keep water out. So I guess that one's probably thicker, more durable than this one. This one obviously wanting to be lighter weight if you're taking it on the run. You have a different kind of clasp and opening system here. You have a hook and loop situation over here. This is obviously for Alpine expeditions, fast packing, that type of thing. I loaded up some extra stuff here, a little drone here. I brought a dry bag with some extra clothes, which I don't need. I just wanted to test out the pack loaded because I took it out also last night, didn't have much in it, and it's just cavernous inside. So I had my drone there and it was just like flopping around. This pack is for loading up lots of gear. You don't want to take this for shorter outings just because there's a ton of space in there. There is a sleeve here for a hydration bladder, but there's no kind of routing point to get to the shoulder easily. I don't think, I haven't tried it yet, but it should be fairly easy to just pop it out of here and just run it over the shoulder through this little loop here. That should be no issues, but again, closing it up, hook and loop over here, and there's plenty of room to kind of extend it. So you have this big volume of space. They're calling it 15 liters, but it seems like it could be more because the Ultra Spire pack I have, the Traverse, is 20 liters, and it certainly seems like you can get just as much in here, if not more, certainly if you're lashing things on the outside. But you could pack this upper area really tight, and I've kind of tightened this down because I have less stuff, but you could extend this hook here and kind of loop it around here, so you could have a lot of stuff here if you were kind of sleeping the night somewhere, camping out, or just taking a super long adventure in colder conditions where you need more gear, or certainly rain gear, that type of stuff. You've got these braids down the side here, which I've tightened up because I only have my poles in the side. There's no quiver here. Again, this is a pack, not a trail running specific vest. So along each side, you have these slots here. I put my poles. These are not easy to access on the run. I could pull them out on the run, but getting them into these sides here is a little tricky. So again, this is not a trail running vest. It's like an adventure pack here. So keep that in mind. These kind of lanyards here, and this thing is designed, there's a little hook in there. I think that's more for ice axes and stuff. You could kind of hook the end of the ice axes from both sides in here and strap them up along the sides there. I don't have an ice axe, so I'm sure this will be featured in other mountaineering type of sites, so you can check those out if you're interested in that. Right now I have my poles in here. I'm gonna bust these out for this loop. I did film some poling action in last night's run, but just a quick detail here. They have really nice buttons on these poles here. Obviously the color here, pink obsidian, I don't know what, or obsidian is the dark one. I'm not sure what they call this color, but the kind of accents, obviously the shoes here, and some of the tabs on the pack, the little features over here, that kind of pink color there. I'll put it up on the screen. I don't remember what it is, but it's kind of cool. Also see it here, Collab Norda Black Diamond, but they have a really nice button here. Sometimes those buttons, they could be a little round and they're like on the edge. Sometimes you just like pinch your finger. They're so small and so close to this little, what can be sharp edge. Sometimes I have to be careful and like kind of pull my hand up quick so I don't pinch my finger under there. You have a nice and solid button here. So it's just so easy to push that button, and these are standard Z. I've had Z poles in the past. These are not as light as the Lecky ultralight ones, the super light ones. Lecky has a version that is more durable from their lightest one, which is more in line with this one. This is a thicker carbon pole here than Lecky's most light ones, and these connection points are also thicker here in this model. Definitely leaning towards durability. If you're out on an Alpine expedition, you do not want to break one of those poles, so you'll probably bring a more durable pole anyway. But again, they open up really quick, and that button is just, the button is really nice. That's awesome. And then I had some demonstration of this earlier. Here's my little thing. Clip that in. I'm in. I'm out. I'm in. I'm out. I'm in. You get the picture here, right? This is awesome on the run. One hand. I'm good. As I'm kind of packing up here, one thing I noticed, there's an interior zip pocket, which is nice, but what I want to feature here is they have a string on this zipper here, and on the front here, you can see I've got that tucked in there. They have this zipper here, and it is super rattly. Like, I don't know why they did it like this. When I was on the run, or as I've been testing it, I kind of tuck it back and then zip it up, because you could probably hear this. This thing rattles like crazy on the run. And I was just noticing this string back here. And this is something I've done on other packs too. Just taken a pair of pliers and broken off, which I will do in this pack. I'm going to break off this metal piece, and then I'll see if I could tie this string on here, or maybe another piece of string. But this noise is not good. On the move here, as you can tell, I put one pole away, holding the camera with one hand. Just wanted to show ease of use here on the move, clipping in and out. There's obviously 3 parts to this distance. Oh, little deer, not a bear, no worry. There's obviously 3 parts to this system here. You got the pole itself, you've got that locking magnetic system there, and then you've also got the strap. This strap is really comfortable here. I've got a 120 centimeter pole. Put the sizing of the strap on the screen. I think it's medium, very well ventilated here. All the edging is wrapped. I don't notice any seams at all anywhere along the edge of my wrist. You can see that gray part kind of goes all the way around, and where the seam would be, they overwrap it with that black part there. And then all along the thumb, around upper part of the hand or towards the fingers, whatever you want to call that, there's no kind of loose seams, no loose fabric anywhere. This is the most comfortable strap system, hand strap, what do you want to call this? This thing on my hand here, most comfortable one I've ever used on the trail. If you're worried about perhaps durability of this teeny tiny string there, yeah, that's something I thought about, but Lecky has had those strings for quite some time. They're a little bit thicker. This seems to have 2 strings strung together here. Hard to tell. This has obviously been tested extensively by Black Diamond. Can't imagine this failing outside of intentionally shearing it. I've never had a Lecky one break on me, and those have more of a knit appearance to them, although they're obviously not like a thin knit fabric, but never been an issue, and they're about the same thickness I would say as these, so I'm gonna say it's a non-issue. One thing I also attempted on the move was to put this pole back there. I couldn't quite get it in there. I had to stop and swing the pack around. I think if you undo this bottom clasp, kind of pull it up, maybe with a little bit more practice, because I have that lanyard, that bungee. It's not a stretchy bungee for the ice axes or whatever on the side. I have that pulled pretty tight because I'm not fully loaded. So I think that makes it a little trickier to get the pole slid in there. A little tighter squeeze, certainly not being able to see it. It's not as wide an opening as your normal trail running pole quiver. But I think with some practice, I could probably undo this bottom button here and kind of learn how to fish them in and out. But again, I can get them out easily. That's no problem. It's just a matter of getting them back in there is a little trickier just due to the orientation and how the inner sleeve is actually inside the pack. So it's kind of like compressed in there. You could probably tell I'm more of a right hand or right side quiver guy. It's definitely trickier to get them in these side pockets than having a quiver like wide open right on your shoulder, but I was able to get this one in. I think a little more practice I could get it. Obviously this side is unnatural to me. I normally have my quiver right here, so that was a little trickier. A couple more details on the pack. You got your standard pockets in here. There's a whistle inside here. One zip up front, which is nice. Again, not crazy about this noise going on here. I'll adjust that. The long bottle pockets. You see, this one's pretty empty. I gotta go down and refill. But it's held up really nicely by this bungee. Big over pockets here on both sides here. Only the zipper on one side. Nothing on the shoulders though. I think they could have added a little something over here. You have these little loops if you want to clip something on, but perhaps a small pocket for like salt tabs or whatever could be useful. Even the Garmin InReach. I have my InReach, but I have it on the inside of the pack in the zipper pocket in the back because just have a lot of things going on over here. I'll get it if I need it. My wife is saying, yeah, good idea. Have your InReach out of reach. Don't do that at home. Anyway, little over flaps on these side body pockets here. So on the top, you have a big over flap. So you can put something or a couple things here on both sides very securely. I stuck my wrappers in there. Last bit here, daisy chain along the sides here. These are the same clips as the distance vest I had many years, it has to be 5 years ago at this point, but these are essentially the same. They clip here. I think they could do a little better with this because these clasps here, this is a lot of space. I'm wearing a size small here, and I think the panels are in the right position on my chest. I think if I was, you know, maybe a little more loaded up, or depending on what you got in here, how steep you're going, I might want to really dial these down. The top is not stretchy, the bottom is stretchy, but I don't have too much room to play with here as far as I'm like full capacity here. But there's extra space because these clasps are so big. Most vests have just a clip on one side and they'll hook to the daisy chain on the other side, and that just saves or adds more space in adjustability. The rope that you could adjust with is longer, so here you're kind of limited because this part is so wide. So I think they could probably refine this design here. This is, again, if you're into gear mods, you could take something that has a clip because you have the daisy chain on this side. So you could fashion your own different clasp system here if you want to really dial this in as you wish. But I think Black Diamond could maybe, perhaps now they're working with Norda, come up with a, and this is certainly kind of large too. They could definitely streamline this clasp situation here. Back where I started, reloaded for my last loop here. Let's see, what am I at? 10.6 miles, 4,300 feet so far. Gonna add on another about 2,700 feet, I believe here. Still rocking the 000s here. No issues at all. Of course, on the heavier side for climbing up and down, but protection can be paramount at times, and the feet are feeling quite comfortable, so sticking with them for this long run. So what do you think of the Norda Black Diamond collaboration so far? This is kind of like an overview of the entire collection here. Probably follow up with more details on each of the items, especially the 000 shoes here and the pack. Got that 30-liter duffel, which I brought along with me for this quick one-day getaway. That's smaller than Norda's giant Dyneema duffels there. 30 liters, kind of like almost gym bag size, but enough for a day or two. Throw some stuff in there. They give you a quite heavy-duty carabiner with that. I'm not an expert on carabiners, but apparently that one is super high quality and also pink. Breeze is picking up a little. I'm not in a burn zone though, so don't think I should run into any flash flood issues as I have the last trip over in Grand Jean. My thoughts on the collaboration specifically here, I think it makes sense for both brands. Norda obviously bringing that trail and ultra swag to the table. Black Diamond bringing that mountaineering heritage, more technical gear, that kind of background to the table. I have run in a black diamond vest, as I mentioned, maybe 5 years ago at this point. I had Carbon Z poles with the regular wrist straps. So I think partnering up with Norda, bringing some of that trail focus into the Black Diamond brand is definitely good for them. Also the shoes, actually, talked about maybe this being a high that Norda is known for specifically. You don't want your approach shoes blowing out during the wrong expedition. Wouldn't be a fun time, and Norda bringing their materials expertise to the table with Black Diamond, that could be a win there. For Norda, obviously, partnering up with a brand focused on that technical gear side of things, that is something, you know, Norda's more focused on the footwear, apparel. They've done gear partnerships with Raid, of course, lifestyle type design, and I think their ethos does kind of match up with the mountain ethos of Black Diamond, so it's got to be some good synergy there, and this is a long-term partnership, so looking forward to seeing what they come up with in the future. I had a few suggestions, straps being one of them. Of course, possibly a trail running specific vest, Black Diamond Norda collaboration. That would be cool down the line as well. But speaking of that mountain, outdoors, Alpine ethos and focus of both of these brands here, Black Diamond also sent me one of their down deploy hoodies. They're 0.5 ultralight. When I got out of the van this morning, it was a little chilly, not too cold, but that type of piece is definitely something you want to stash in a pack like this if you're going on a more extended Alpine adventure in colder conditions. Never had a ultralight down vest like that. It's kind of crazy. It's insanely light, insanely warm. I mentioned my wife having some bikepacking trips lined up. She does over the next couple weeks. She's kind of like calling dibs on that jacket. Obviously, she's going out for a few overnights usually, and you know, you want to be as light as possible and as warm as possible. Just out there, not inside a weenie van like me. So she's looking forward to getting out in that one. Back up top again, not all the way to the top. I did the just steeper part these last two times. Past 6,100 feet, gonna head back down. Was feeling the quads a little bit on that last descent, which is good for my training, but probably gonna feel a little bit more on the way down. I am seeing some darker clouds off in the distance there, so I want to jet down, jet out of here, try to wrap this up within a 24-hour period. So let me know if you have questions about this Alpine collection here. Of course, comparisons, other vests you think that might be comparable. Again, this is a pack and not a vest, just to straighten that out. I've got a pretty long all-day hike planned for late September in the Sawtooths, and this kit here is certainly going to be part of it. Should be a little bit cooler by then, and I mean, well, who knows what the weather is going to be, but certainly have to pack more layers, more food and fluids in there, and this is going to be a great kind of pack for that situation. Probably end up wearing these 000s here. Maybe I should make it a little easier on myself, call them 000s, but yeah, 6,000 feet up and on the way down here to round it out. Feeling super comfortable. I never felt unstable, runnable at the times they needed to be runnable, and a bit dirty and dusty, that's for sure, but no signs of any excessive wear and tear, which is what you want to see in the mountains. Alpine conditions for an Alpine collection like this. So yeah, more to come with the shoe specifically, also the pack, and the rest of the collection. I'll be using this in some adventures going forward. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Of course, like and subscribe. Check out www.humblerunning.com and also check out my rendezvous page. I've got links to everything I review, test, and discuss across my articles, videos, Instagram, all that stuff. It's all on my rendezvous page. Simple one-stop shop if you want to support Humble Running and get a feel for all the gear. I'm putting specific lists of the stuff that I wear, my kit for all of my test videos individually. So if you ever have a question about something I'm using in a video, it's easy for me in Rendezvous to just click, create little lists for each video so you could more easily find that information and purchase and support Humble Running if you so choose. So I'll see you next time out on the trails.